Hey there, this is Joy with Connected Realities, and this video is called The Pyramid of Belief. The Pyramid of Belief is a model developed by the author Dave Gray. Connected Realities has adapted this model to deepen the explanation of how our beliefs are developed. We're going to look at this model and use it to explain how, despite being on the same team, participants can see things so differently from one another. At their best, meetings can be great forums for collaboration, where the wisdom of the group can be mined for the benefit of the whole project or effort. Great meetings draw out the wisdom of the group by encouraging people to contribute their ideas and making space for all participants to have an opportunity to lend their thoughts, ideas, and voices. Yet sometimes, our often unconscious beliefs can cause us to seriously misunderstand one another, limit our ability to collaborate effectively, and can even create meeting environments where it becomes harder for some people to participate. Let's look at Connected Realities' variation on the Pyramid of Belief, which is, in turn, based on the ladder of inference developed in the 1970s by professor and theorist Chris Argyris. Think of this line as representing the solid ground of reality, the truth with a capital T. Because of its vastness, it is not possible for any one person to know all of it. We only know our part of it. Now this is the level Connected Realities has added to the pyramid. What each of us knows is based in very foundational ways upon the histories of the people who brought us up and by our own social identities. Let me explain what social identities are. In a U.S. context, there are a number of ways that we categorize people by differences, like religion, sex, ability, where you were born, gender, sexuality, language, race, class, body size, and age. Within these categorizations, there are societal preferences given, ideologically and structurally, to some of these groups. The identities in this orange box are what are considered good and right and normal. These are what are known as privileged identities, while others are considered outside of what is good and right and righteous and normal. These are marginalized identities. Most people occupy both privileged and marginalized identities. Let's take me, for example. Some of the privileged identities I hold are that I'm a US-born English speaker. I'm cisgender, meaning my gender identity corresponds to my birth sex. I'm between the ages of 30 and 55, and I have no physical disabilities. These are places where I hold privilege. I also occupy marginalized identities. For example, I'm a non-Christian woman of color with a working-class background. Our identities very much shape our experience in this country, and it's slightly different for each of us because even within what seems like a homogeneous group of people, we can have very different identities. The next layer in Gray's model through which reality gets filtered is our own personal experiences. Everyone has their own unique catalog of personal experience. Then, even within what we see and experience personally, we select information to pay attention to. There are certain things that get our attention. Consider walking into a grocery store. Our brains are not able to process everything our eyes see, so we start to focus in on certain things. We put our attention on the things that are most relevant to us, often things that meet our most essential needs at the moment. We focus our attention on certain parts of our experience, and the rest of the pyramid gets built on the parts of our experience we've given our attention to. In a meeting context, let's say, I'm a participant and I've walked into a room where a meeting is about to begin. I kind of know some of the other people present, but I haven't really worked with them before. Part of the information that I might be filtering, what might get my attention based on my own identities and experience, is related to other people and how they are interacting with one another. Was I greeted when I came in? Are there certain groups of people who are sitting together and talking? Who seems to know each other and who is sitting alone? These are the kind of things that might get my attention. The next thing we do is to make assumptions about the things we give our attention to. We add meaning to what we are observing. In the example I've just given, I might make the assumption that the group of people who were laughing together and talking to each other when I came into the room know each other. So on top of the perceptions and assumptions, we draw conclusions about the things we've given our attention to. Then we form beliefs, often without realizing we've done it. Beliefs are what we've decided about a situation. They are the things that we know to be true. and this becomes our new reality, and we think that we're standing on solid ground. Our beliefs are so much a part of us that they feel obvious. Of course it's this way. How can it be any other way? It's totally clear. And when something seems this obvious, we take it for granted, in the same way that we know water is wet. When things seem that obvious to us, there will be blind spots, and we might even believe that reality is the same for everyone. And we'll behave in ways that are consistent with our beliefs, precariously constructed though they may be. Given our often unconscious beliefs and the blind spots that are associated with them, as team members and meeting participants, we may completely miss the reality of another person's experience because we don't realize that they are dealing with a different reality. Let me give you some examples from my work as a meeting designer and process facilitator. There are many mistakes that I have made that have unintentionally further marginalized or left people out. Things that I have done directly through ignorance, lack of understanding of how big a deal things really were, or by not advocating strongly enough for different groups of people. For example, I requested simultaneous language interpretation for a meeting I would be facilitating, and the host arranged for interpretation, but I didn't insist that the person be experienced in simultaneous interpretation. So we had really poor quality interpretation, which left out all of the non-English speaking participants. I've also just assumed that nobody would need interpretation and not had interpreters at all, when communities I was working in actually had large populations of non-English speakers. In another example, I knew that a group I would be working with included multiple religious groups. I knew some people were Muslim. I did not do any research to find out about prayer times for practicing Muslims, so I was taken by surprise when a group of people walked out in the middle of an important meeting to pray. Another mistake I often make is not asking people's pronouns when we do introductions, which leaves me and others with only our assumptions, and our assumptions are not always correct. So I unintentionally contribute to participants continuing to be misgendered. Final example. I did not ensure that the handouts at a meeting were printed in a larger font for a person with visual impairment. This left somebody without access to information that everyone else had. Everyone is standing on their own pyramids. Each of us is moving through life with our own versions of reality. So we're going to miss things. It can take a lot of awareness, a lot of openness, and probably some mistakes to begin to see where our beliefs might be preventing us from seeing and understanding other people's perspectives. I don't have any magic formulas, but I do have some suggestions. I think we need to be humble. And I think we need to be curious about what other people's experiences are. We need to take a learning stance, meaning that it should be our intention to learn and understand more about other people. And we should be flexible. When we know better, we should do better, and be willing to adjust or change our approaches in order to make sure we're not unintentionally leaving people out. This has been the Pyramid of Belief. Thanks for watching.